Okay, so today's lesson is chapter 7.2, which is arithmetic sequences and series. This will take 2 days. Today will be our day 1. An arithmetic sequence is a sequence in which each term is found by adding a fixed number to the previous term. And we call that fixed number the common difference. Okay, and it's often noted using the letter D. Okay, so if we look at this example here, we notice we go from 3 to 7, 7 to 11, 11 to 15. Each time we are going up by 4. So in this case, that common difference is 4. We'd say that D equals 4. And if we want to continue this pattern, it would then be 19, 23, and it would just keep going. Okay, so that is the arithmetic sequence because each term in the sequence goes up the same amount. The formula for the common difference, okay, is just, again, as we said, subtracting one term from the other. Okay, so a sub n plus 1 minus a sub n. Okay, we don't want to do it the other way around because if we do that, then we'll end up having the opposite sign. We want to make sure that we should be adding 4 and not subtracting 4 in that previous case. So here's an example. Here are 3 terms in this sequence. You'll notice we have some variables. We have t squared plus q, negative 4t squared plus 2q, negative 9t squared plus 3q. You might be able to notice what's going on by looking at it. But let's use that formula from above. So this would be a1, or a sub 1, a sub 2, a sub 3. So let's do 2 minus 1. So negative 4t squared plus 2q minus t squared plus q. Okay, so be careful, the minus and then the parentheses around that second term. Distribute that in. So we have negative 4t squared and negative t squared. So that's going to give us a negative 5t squared. 2q and negative q gives us just q. So that is D. That is supposed to be our common difference in this sequence. If we check that, if we go from 2 to 3, okay, we went down 5t squared and we went up 1q. So it works out perfect. This next example, let's find the first 5 terms of the arithmetic sequence where a sub 1 is 3 minus root 2, a sub 2 is 3. You might be able to quickly realize all they did was add a root 2. And if we check that using that formula from above, 3 minus root 2, distribute in the negative, that'd be a negative 3 and a 3, so they're going to cancel, becomes a positive root 2. That's your common difference. So if we're going to list our terms, the first term they gave us, 3 minus root 2. The next term they gave us was 3. And as you can tell, that's adding a root 2. And then we're going to add root 2 again. So 3 plus root 2. And then this is where, remember our rules with radicals, we don't add the insides together. If I add another root 2, I just have 2 of them. So 3 plus 2 root 2. And then 3 plus 3 root 2. And we could just keep going on as long as we wanted, but they just wanted the first 5 terms. So let's say we wanted to find the nth term. Okay, so the nth term could be whatever term you choose it to be, or it's just our general form to help us find that. Okay. Finding that is using the formula here. A sub n is equal to a sub 1, so your first term, plus n minus 1. So again, n is relating to what term, times D, your common difference. Okay, so you got to kind of look at what you have to help you decide your approach with these problems. So the first one, find a sub 8, the 8th term, and then the general term there, when we know that a sub 1 is negative 4 and a sub 5 is 16. Okay, so the nice thing, you could plug these in to try to figure out some different stuff that you need, but the easiest way to start here, since we have two terms, you can go ahead and find what D is. What is the common difference? And this actually works a lot like slope. Okay, I have a sub 5 is 16. A sub 1 is -4. So 16 minus -4. I'm figuring out how far apart those two numbers are. And then I'm going to divide by how many terms across I went. Well, I got to the fifth term starting at the first term. So on top I have 20 over 4, which is 5. That's going to be your common difference. So again, since it's a constant increase, it works just like slope there. Now we know what our common difference is. We can use that to help us find our a sub 8. So we're going to find a sub 8 is equal to the first term plus n minus 1. So n is referring to the term, so 8th term, times d. So we do that calculation there. 8 minus 1 is 7 times 5. And then plus a -4. We see that the 8th term is 31. Now if we want to find the general term, okay, we could have done that first if we really wanted to. You need to have your first term to do this, which we do, -4. And then, since it's the nth term, we don't know what number they're referring to. We'll leave it as n minus 1 times 5. But we want to clean this up and distribute here. So we'll distribute in the 5. So it gives me -4 plus 5n minus 5. And then we'll write this with the n term first. So 5n minus 9. So if I want to check if that works, let's check it with our 8th term. 5 times 8 is 40, minus 9 is 31. And it gave us back what we're supposed to have. Let's have you try the second one, so you can pause the video right now. And then come back and check how you did. With this next one, very similar, except for it's what they gave us to start with has changed. So they actually gave us the 15th and the 17th term. That doesn't stop me from finding the common difference. You might be able to see this really quickly. We went down 6 in 2 terms. So we're going to see -6 over 2. So that common difference should be -3. But using that kind of slope formula if we wanted to, 2 minus 8 over 17 minus 15. That gives you your -6 over 2, your -3, as I was just saying there. Okay, so we have our common difference. What we don't have is our first term. Watch this. Let's use one of the terms we do have. Let's use a sub 15. So a sub 15 is 8. And that should be equal to the first term, which we don't know, plus n minus 1. So n is 15 because we're choosing the 15th term, times the common difference of -3. 8 equals, then we got 14 times -3, so we got a -42. We add that over to see our first term would be 50. So a little bit different than the last problem. We had to find our first term. Now that we have that, okay, let's do this route a little bit differently. Let's find a sub n first. So a sub n would be equal to 50 plus n minus 1 times -3. So a sub n equals 50 minus 3n. Careful of signs, that'd be plus 3. So a sub n is -3n plus 53. So you can check it very quickly with the first term. plug a 1 in there. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Plus 53 would be 50. Let's do the 8th term, though, because that's what they told us to find. A sub 8. Negative 3 times 8 plus 53. So you get negative 24 plus 53. And we see the 8th term would have been 29. So again, just a little bit of Math Excel and some worksheet practice. And again, feel free to